Hi guys, it's Kelly here and I'm back with another video. Today's video is featuring the new release from Colorado Craft Company. They actually have two releases going on. They have a Anita Duram winter release and then a Chris Lauren winter release. So I have a little bit of both. I do intend to do a video this weekend using the Chris Lauren. Those little mugs are adorable. But here is the thing. So I do a lot of scene cards and I love them. I love scene cards. But sometimes you want to shake it up a little bit, make it a little bit more interesting for yourself, especially when you're doing this all the time. So I've made shadow box scenes before, but always with dies. So today I thought I would do it with stamps. So basically, I'm starting with a 6 1/4 by 5 1/2 piece of cardstock. On the long side, on the 6 1/4 side, you want to score at 1/2 inch, 3/4 of an inch, and 1 inch. I am doing math. Oh, God save us. I am doing math in this video. So I ended up scoring just one more than I needed. Like I scored at 1/4 of an inch and I didn't need to. So 1/2 inch, 3/4, and 1 inch. That's where you need to score at. And that should give you the card base of an A2 size card in the front. You should be able to tell because your inside lines should be, like when you put them down on your paper trimmer or ruler, both of the inside lines should match up to equal 4 1/4. I wanted to do this as a window little pop-up scene because that's what the puppy reminded me of. I'm using the Furry Christmas and the Christmas Obsessed stamps. So the little puppy just reminded me of somebody who kind of just got like, you know, he got caught doing something maybe he wasn't supposed to be doing. And so I thought it would be cute if you could see him through a little window. I'm using the rounded rectangles from Hero Arts for that. These are infinity dies, so this is also how I'm going to create my frame later on. But you could use any shape that you wanted to create your little window. Once I have that cut out, I will just keep that rounded square for another card. And then I am going to line this up and just very lightly with my pencil do a little outline so I know on my second piece of cardstock where I need to stamp my little puppy dog at, which is what I'm going to do now. So I looked at the sentiments and I think they're all really, really cute, but I wanted to make one of them a sign. So at first I kind of reached for the happy paw days. But then I saw this cute little one that says official gift sniffer and that was really adorable. So that one. So I'm going to stamp this at the same time I am stamping my main image. I am using Intense Black Ink from Hero Arts because it is safe for alcohol markers. The reason that it's important that you stamp the sentiment in alcohol safe ink as well as your image is because we're turning it into a sign. So we will be coloring over top of it. If you stamp in an ink that is maybe more crisp for sentiments, you will not be able to color over it because you will smear your ink, and we don't want that. So I just stamped this little guy down, and then I'm going to draw in my frame for my sign. I knew that I was going to use the little Christmas Obsessed guys to create, what do you call it, a garland? I guess that's what you call it. I wanted to call it a swag, but it's really more of a little garland across the top, like back behind the tree, kind of. But I needed to get my frame in first. I did that with a ruler and a pencil. I always do it in pencil first because I do not trust myself to just go directly in there with something that is permanent. And then once I'm happy with my lines, I will go back in with a fine liner and just put that in permanently with the frame. Here, I'm just lining up my little garlands. There's a couple of different options, and it actually in the set has like a little branch from you to hang them from. I think there's like a little bell. Let me look. I realized I don't watch my videos. Isn't that funny? I don't watch my own videos in their entirety very often. So there's a little mistletoe, some berries, a little acorn, a little star, the ones that we used, the star, the stocking, the acorn, and the little holly leaf. But anyway, oh, there's also a little carrot. I missed that. That's adorable. But anyway, I just stamped those, and the reason I didn't mask them is because it wasn't necessary. Did my acorn and my leaf overlap my sign a little bit? Yes. Did I know that I could hide it with a darker color marker? Yes. So I decided not to mask them. This tree does not, it's kind of like fades off. You know, Anita has that kind of storybook style, and it kind of fades off. So I just like brought the line up just a little bit. My acorn is in front of my tree, but that's okay. I think it'll be fine because it is a bigger acorn and it would maybe stick out further from the wall. Before you get to coloring, make sure you go back in and erase those pencil lines that we drew, because once you color over pencil lines with an alcohol marker, they are permanent. Nothing's getting those things up. So now we're going to move on to the little star of this scene, which is this cute little puppy dog. And I'm going to color it smooth, okay? How most people would color it or would prefer to have it colored. I'm going to color it smooth first. And then I'm going to go back in and add some more texture. Here's why. My Molly is a brindle coat, and so I kind of wanted to recreate her coat to the best of my ability, but it does give the doggy a much more textured appearance, and not everybody is going to love that. So going in, adding shading. The ears are flopped over, so I added shading to kind of the bottom of the ears, underneath the little present, underneath the dog's body, where it's pointed at the ground, where the paws are over its like little tummy back end area, added shading there, and then we're just going to kind of build out from those places with our next, lightest colors. I started with my darkest color. If you're not confident in where you need to put your shadows, you can absolutely start with the lightest color. They're much easier to cover up. That leg that's in the back, I colored in completely with my mid-tone because it's completely underneath the dog and in the back. It's not going to really catch any light. There's not going to be any highlight there. And then I'm just going to fill in with this E55. I did leave a little bit of a lighter spot on the puppy dog's chest because my Molly has that as well. She also has one white paw, which I did consider leaving, like putting it in there. But I ultimately decided that I would just roll with the whole brindle coat. Can I just tell you that these dogs have not barked all day long? And now all of a sudden I'm doing a voiceover. And of course they have to bark at literally nothing. Oh my word. Anyway, we're not even going to harp on it because it's been like the last 4 videos. I need to just accept that this is my new normal, I guess. So I filled in the lighter spot with an E53 as well as the underneath of the ears. And now here's where we're going to go in and I'm going to try to kind of recreate her brindle coat. If you look at a brindle coat, you know that they appear to be mostly brown, but there are black, there are white, there are lighter browns, darker browns. And I think it's a beautiful, beautiful coat. I've read somewhere that like brindle coat dogs are seen as more intimidating because of their colorings to like the general public, which is wild to me. I don't know. Anyway, so I'm going in and I'm doing, I started with the black in my darkest areas, and then I'm going to go in with a W9 because I am using some warm browns, so I want those to work nicely together. And all I'm doing is very short little flicks of color. I'm not extending them out very far. They're very, very short. And they aren't necessarily all like on top of each other, but they are grouped together because I want the darkest parts of the fur, like the fur texture we're creating, to be in the darkest parts of the shadow. Now I do extend them out into the next color so that way they will blend together, and I'm going to do that with all of them. Again, if the super textured puppy is not for you, that's fine. You can just do the smooth coat and you will still end up with a beautiful card and a nice result. So now that I have the black and the dark gray down, I'm going to go back in with the same colors we used previously, the browns, and just work those over kind of the same areas. And again, extending out into the next color. So for like this E59, I'm extending it out into the area that has an E57. For the E57, I'm extending it out to the area that has an E55. I hope this makes sense. But really, this part is the coloring that probably took the longest just because I'm basically doing it twice. But that's okay. I was really I loved the way that it came out. It looks like this little brindle puppy dog. And then you could absolutely leave white areas. I find that very challenging to do when creating this texture. So I'm not going to leave any white areas. I am going to go back and add them back in. So the E55, I just kind of used all over because Copics are transparent. A lighter color will lift a little bit of a darker color. So this is just going to give us more variations of color in this coat. And this particular, coloring for a dog does have a lot of variation. And then for the E53, which is the lightest color, I just skipped that. I let the 55 be the last one. Normally I use a number 10, 97% of the time. I use a number 10 white gel pen. This is a number 8. This is an instance in which this one, it is a little bit thinner. It is a little bit sketchier when you're putting the white down, but that's perfect for this type of technique. And you can see anytime it stops working on me, I just take the tip of it onto my finger. That warms up the ball of the pen enough that I can get some more lines out of it. And I actually think I only had to do it twice. So now you can see all of that white in there. To make it a little bit softer, you can do one of two things. While you're tapping it in, you can actually tap your finger on top of it and that will soften the highlight. Or you can do what I'm going to do later on and just go over it with one of your lighter colors, just a little bit to kind of soften it. I felt like the white was a little too much. My Molly does have lots of sugar on her face. So I left that part there. She's my older girl. And in fact, I wanted to talk about her while we color the other brown items. Rick, thank you so much for asking about her. He asked if she was over her kennel cough. And she, for the most part, she is not coughing anymore. So I am really wondering if it was the dog flu versus the kennel cough. She does still sometimes have the little reverse sneezing fits. But she has not been having any of the coughing fits. So I think that we're over the worst of it. I guess that cough was just kind of hanging on. So now we have the acorn and the frame colored. I'm going to go in. Here's where we're going to color right over that little sentiment. And I'm just choosing some cool grays. This is going to be my white, for the majority of the card. I am going to bring in some warmer grays later on, just because I have found coloring a lot of these scenes, especially the Anita Duram stamps, I find myself needing a lot more neutrals. So it's good to have a cool and a warm. I don't own I think maybe I own one or two of the neutrals or one or two of the toners, but it's really because they were given to me. I don't tend to reach for those. I usually am one end of the spectrum or the other. I'm a cool gray or a warm gray, just dependent upon what the scene is and what I need it for. So I'm continuing the whites with the stripe of the present. I wanted it to look like a little candy cane. I'm also going to use it for the top of the stocking. The little toe and the heel are almost it's almost not even worth coloring in because they're such a small area, but I did give them just a little dab with my C1. You're only going to be able to see a very small portion of the stocking. Same thing with the holly leaf on the right hand side because of the frame. So you're only going to get to see just a little bit of it. I chose a red that was just a 3-color combination because the things that I'm coloring red are not very large. I colored the stocking, some of the ornaments, and the present. For the present, adding shading to this because I wanted the highlight to be just right down the center of it. I did for both the white stripes and the red portion of the wrapping paper, I added shading to mostly the bottom, just a line of it at the top. And this is going to move the highlight up a little bit. So it's going to make the darker portion of the present on the bottom and the highlight will be more towards the top of it. Also adding shading underneath where the little puppy dog is holding it. Obviously if she had the little present in their mouth, that would cast a shadow. The dog's head would be over the present. And then once I'm happy with those, I will just fill in the rest of the white areas with my lightest color, which is an R35. But you can go, I mean, this is kind of my go-to red combination, but I like a bluer based red. If you like an orange based red, you could use that as well. It would look just as nice. Red and green are complementary colors. So any Christmas card that you make that has like traditional colors is going to look really good together. So I hit that present for the red, and then we're moving on to the ornaments. Again, not a lot of real estate here, so I'm just adding a little bit of shading to the base of it and then filling it in with my mid-tone before we move on to the next color, which is going to be a yellow. The reason that I chose a yellow, it could have been anything, but I chose to stamp the star at the top and like on the top of with my garland. So I decided that since that was going to be yellow, it would make sense to bring into the yellow to the rest of the card. When you're building a scene, not to mention we all don't have just like hordes and hordes of colors, but also it looks nicer when you use repeat colors in your card to make it more cohesive. So I got the star and the ornaments, and then I'm going to do the present over here, this little present that's like tucked behind. And I'm also going to do the top, I don't even know what you would call that, like the little decorative band at the top of the pot. And then that will be it for the yellows. It looks kind of like a golden yellow, so I was fine with putting it on the pot. Here's where I realized I missed the bottom of my pot for my tree, and I will be coloring that white as well. And then I think the only thing we have left is the greens before we move on to the background. So super funny. I made the comment in one of my last videos. Oh, you know what? Before we even talk about any kind of story time, let's talk about the blog hop. We're 17 minutes into this video. If anybody's still here, there's a blog hop, and they're doing giveaways. So the blog will be linked at the end of the video. It'll just be in that top right-hand corner. If you want to head over there and leave a comment, Colorado Crafts is generously giving away an entire, you can choose the Anita release or the Chris Lauren release to one for each designer. They're giving away to people who shop through our affiliate links, which is a great way to support us, and I totally appreciate that. That link is listed below next to the Colorado Crafts store link. That link there is the one you want to shop through to be entered for that giveaway. And then they're also giving a stamp set away to each, like to a comment for each designer on the hop, and there are a lot of us, so there's a lot of chances to win. And I believe that's open through the 3rd, December 3rd. I can't believe it's going to be December. I just said December. Oh man, it's coming quick. Oh, wow, I got to start Christmas shopping. I've bought 0 items. I've been busy making Christmas cards, though, and sharing them all with you guys. So anyway, that is happening over there. And, if you're like a huge Anita fan or a huge Chris Lauren fan, they always offer bundles with every release where you can save. If you buy the stamp and die bundle, you can save 10%. If you buy just the stamp bundle, you can save 5%. So there is, if you're just like, hey, I already know that I love all of these and I'm going to get them, there's a great way to save some dollars. But mostly enter the giveaway. I mean, over the years of doing this, I don't do it anymore because I'm blessed enough to work with a lot of companies that will send me product. So I don't ever enter like the challenges or the like leave comments to win. But back in the day when I was just starting out, like I always did all the blog hops, left all the comments, because who doesn't want to win something? I mean, everybody wants to win something. It makes you super happy. Like there's no downside to it. You leave a comment that is nice for a designer and acknowledge the free content that they're putting out that's inspiring you, and you enter yourself a chance to win all around. So for the trees, this is a pretty open tree, and it's very, very much Anita style, like super kind of loose, which makes it really easy to add the shading. Just anywhere there's a line, put a little bit of a shadow underneath it. and then build out towards your lightest color, and you will get dimension. Just pick the lines, add darker color underneath it, and then build out from there. For the edges, like some of the edges are a bit undefined. I just did the flicking technique and like flicked color into it. And then you'll see when I do the background, I do the same thing. Like for the tree, I flick the color out, not in. I flick the color out into the background. For the background color, I will flick it into the tree so that they kind of mesh and meet up, and there isn't necessarily a start and stopping place. Here's where I'm going in with that E55 and just kind of tapping it over my little puppy dog. This is going to knock back some of that white. It will still be there, but it will not be as prevalent as it was before, and I was much happier with that. For the floor, carpet, whatever the ground, I did go in with the warm grays. I'm also going to use the warm grays for my little mice that we stamped that are going to go into the window to bring that color in. But I didn't want to use the cool grays because it's right up against that pot. And so I wanted there to be a difference between the white pot and then the like beige or gray kind of carpet. And this, you don't even necessarily have to take it out to all of the edges because we know we're putting that window over top of it. And surprise, surprise, my wall is blue. Nobody's surprised by this. So I'm going to go in. This is my darkest color. I originally showed you a B93, a 95, and a 97. Is that right? Yes. But the 93 was dry, bone dry. So I don't know if my lid is cracked or what. I will have to investigate that. So I switched from a 93 to a 91. I very rarely get a dry marker or a cracked lid or anything like that. I've seen other people post where they said like, oh, I've had 3 or 4. I was really honestly very shocked by that. Just because I've been using mine, collecting them for years and years, and it's not something that I've ever really run into. Maybe just like one time here or there. But most times it isn't even necessarily that I have a crack in the lid. It's been so long since I've used the marker, and this is especially the case for darker colors. It's been so long since I've used the marker. It's literally just dried out like they're alcohol inks and alcohol evaporates. So even if they're, maybe I didn't put the lid all the way on or something like that. But I mean, most of the time they might be on the drier side because I haven't used them in a long time. A lot of my desaturated colors don't get a lot of love. That's just real talk. And for darker colors, there's more pigment in them, less colorless blender. So those are the ones that have a tendency, like if you ever see your tips like start to get gummy or anything, it's almost always the darker colors. So now just blending this out, again, I don't even have to go all the way to the edges because we're going to put the frame over top of it. And then we're going to move on and color our little mice. I knew this mouse was going to go on the left of my frame and this mouse was going to go on the right. So I added the shading to the side that was going to point away from my scene. So for the mouse that's looking right, his shading's on the left, and for the mouse that's looking left, his shading's on the right. And then I did give them just like a little bit of a pink cheek. This one at the top is holding some little berries like he's decorating, and I just filled those in super quickly, like 2 little dots of color red. So now we talked about the block hop. What was I going to say before? Does anybody know? Oh, I was talking in my videos recently about how I've been snowing all of the things and like I cannot stop myself. And that is true. I can't. So I've been just experimenting with different things because like I said in my video yesterday, I know that there are so many places who are running out of, like, they're sold out because people are shopping, Black Friday sales, all of those things. There's been a lot of shopping in the last week. And so there's a lot of those that are specific to snow that are sold out. But there are other things that you can use. And so I'm experimenting with those. This little gray square that I'm creating here is actually going to be my windowsill that my little mice sit on. And then now we're back to the card front. I went back and forth about how to decorate this. And I do feel like it is a little plain. I wish that I had some, like a Christmas light stamp or die or something to kind of decorate the outside. And I would highly encourage you to do that if you have something like that in your stash. I don't. So that means, I basically have to go on the hunt for it. But so I went back and forth about whether or not to do the shutters. And I was like, I'm not going to do shutters. There's just not enough room here to make it make sense. So I just decided to go with a really simple window frame. This is me creating the siding. And when I was going through and doing the lines, I was just using my glass mat underneath to get my spacing correct. And they are about a 1/2 inch apart. And then I'm just adding my shading just right up above the darkest color. And then here is the frame I'm going to create. So originally I thought I was going to go white, but I don't love the white. So I did go back and cut it again out of some gray cardstock, and that I liked much better. Plus I know my snow is going to show up better. I do, because I don't have the dies for these. There are dies, so fret not if you wanted to remake this and not have to fussy cut out your mice. You won't have to. You could just use the dies and that would work really well, but I didn't have them, so fussy cutting it was in order to put these little mice in my window. So I'm just going to go through and cut those out. I cut out their tails. I don't even necessarily know that I needed them. But so here is the general idea. If you don't love a shadow box, you could absolutely do this same idea, but leave off the folded like springs, like the little flaps on the side. You could just cut those off and pop up your like frame, your window frame over top of your scene, and it would work pretty similarly. I decided that I was going to stack my 2 frames together. And here I did this, but I have some regrets. And I believe in sharing our mistakes. I don't necessarily know. I don't know if it's a mistake. I believe in sharing the things that we learn. So I wanted a little bit of frosted glass around it. So I decided to take a piece of acetate and do a little bit of ink blending with some white pigment ink. It did give me the intended frosted look, but it took like 2 days to dry. And I'm not entirely sure that it is still completely dry. Like if I stick my finger in the card, now I did adhere it so that the pigment ink was on the inside, so it wouldn't be being touched. But if I go in there and I rub really hard, I can still remove some of it. So I don't even know that it's 100% dry. So maybe skip that step. Or maybe there's a better way that you know of to put like frosted glass on the acetate, which if you do, I'm open to that as well. I like to learn things. Here, I went in with a snow marker. The snow marker works by you put it on and then you heat it up and it puffs. But it wasn't as puffy as I wanted it to be. So I decided that I was going to go ahead and adhere my frame to my card base. And then I was going to use a paste to kind of stack it up so that way it looked like it was sitting on top of the frame, like quite a bit of snow had gathered. So once the frame is down, then I am going to go in, and before I put my acetate in is when I am going to do the paste. I am going to go ahead and fold these. This is a small commercial break while I try to find my bone folder, because you know that it's on my desk, but where is it located? Nobody knows. It took me a while to find it. That's why we had to take a little break and then come back to it. So here I'm just going through. As you're folding them, you want to fold the first fold toward the inside of the card, the second fold toward the outside of the card, and then the last fold toward the inside of the card. And each time you're just going to make sure you're really pressing those down with your bone folder to make sure that they hold your shape. And then these will act as our springs to pop up our card over our card base. You probably could do, well, no, I don't even know. Maybe you could do less than 1/4 of an inch to have it a little bit closer, but I think that would be terribly challenging to score it and then fold it. So now that I have those pieces folded, I'm going to go in with the paste. This one that I chose to use is from Picket Fence. It is the Paper Glaze Luxe Arctic Fox. Something I really love about this is it's a true white. So, and it dries really, really fast. The one thing I really like it, but everybody might not, is it is like pearlescent. So you may not be a fan of that. Hero Arts has a true white like texture paste. The paper glaze I find to be a little bit the texture to be more snow-like, but you could probably get away with maybe using the Hero Arts white. If you love the pearlescent, but you're like, I don't like the texture of the paper glaze, Hero Arts also has a white pearlescent one that may work. I have not tried those yet. So now I'm going to go in and glue this. Speaking of gluing, the glue press, I checked again before I started this video, and it was still in stock. I know several of you commented on my community post and said that you were able to get them. I am thrilled for you. I'm so glad that they have them back in stock, but I do know they said that it was a limited quantity, but I'm glad some of you guys are going to be able to pick them up because it really is a fantastic tool. So now here, again, I'm not an engineer. So I put my acetate in, and then I put my little windowsill in, and I was like, wait a minute, there's no mice on that. I'm going to have to take this off. So I just peeled it back up. Thankfully, the glue hadn't set yet. Then I added my mice, and then they will get glued down to the back of that card front. This is going to create the depth perception between the two. So you'll have the mice on the windowsill right up against the window. And then further back, you'll see the little puppy dog tree scene where he's getting busted for sniffing out the gifts. So again, I remember I told you about the tails, like see how that one's tail is just like totally hanging off. I don't even think you can see it in the finished card. But my frosted glass did make it a little bit, you can see the mice in real life, but photographing it, it was challenging to see the little mice because I'm also having to deal with the reflective surface of the acetate and all that jazz. In order to adhere this down, I am using some, I think it's Rip Tape. This is Honeybee's brand, and I have the thinner one. I think it is like 1/8 of an inch or something. So I'm just using 2 pieces on my 1/2 inch. Are they 1/2 inch? Yeah, they're 1/2 inch. On the 1/2 inch little flaps. And then I will release the paper so that it'll be, now sticky on both sides. And, here, I did this is why this is the end of it. Because this is your last chance to add anything to that background scene that you missed before we build the whole thing. So I did go in, I added some glitters to the ornaments, to the little star, to the present. And then I added some highlights with my white gel pen, because once you put the shadow box frame on top, you really can't get in there to add anything else. So now I'm going to go ahead and remove the release paper. I will fold this up, like fold up all of the springs and adhere it down to my card base folded. And then once it's nice and snugly adhered, when I let it go, it will pop back up. I did have some trouble with this release paper. I had to get my tweezers. So here, again, I'm doing the same thing. I am holding the whole thing together, and then I am lining it up with the edge of my card so that I can get it adhered straight. And now here's our little shadow box. I noticed right away that my acetate had become unstuck at the top, so I had to go back in there and stick it back down. And then the last thing that I did was I had all this snow gathered outside, but I wanted it to look like it was snowing. So I just held my hand over. I didn't want it over the whole window because I didn't want to block my little doggy. But I wanted it kind of like around the edges. So I'm going in with some opaque ink. This is the Copic white ink. And then I'm just spattering it around the edges. And then that's it. That is the full card. So I hope that you enjoyed the video. I hope that this inspires you to do maybe something different for your scenes if you're feeling a little stuck. Please head over to the blog to enter those giveaways. Thank you so much for joining me. I always appreciate your time, and I will catch you on the next video. Bye.